Anesthesia awareness is a frightening potential complication of general anesthesia, in which a patient regains some level of consciousness during surgery. In such episodes, patients may report varying degrees of awareness. For some, it might be fleeting, dreamlike impressions, such as hearing a single word or fragment of conversation. Others recall more continuous conversations or sensations, while the most severe cases involve being fully conscious but paralyzed. Because patients' eyes are typically taped shut during surgery, they're usually unable to see what's happening, even if conscious. Most often, awareness involves auditory experiences, like hearing staff talking, or physical sensations, such as pressure from surgical instruments. While many report no pain, some patients do describe feeling pain, which is especially traumatic. The paralysis comes from neuromuscular blocking drugs, which are often administered alongside anesthetics to prevent movement. This leaves patients unable to speak or signal to the surgical team that something is wrong. As a result, feelings of helplessness, terror, and impending doom are frequently reported. Memories of these episodes may surface immediately after surgery or may return days or even weeks later. For many, anesthesia awareness is profoundly distressing. Patients often develop anxiety surrounding future surgeries, recurrent nightmares, and in more severe cases, post-traumatic stress disorder. Thankfully, this condition is extremely rare. Large studies estimate that anesthesia awareness occurs in approximately 1 to 2 cases per 1,000 surgeries, making its incidence of occurrence 0.1 to 0.2%. It's most likely during emergency operations, such as trauma or cardiac surgery, where lighter anesthesia may be used to reduce risk to unstable patients. It's also more common in individuals with a history of substance use, which can increase anesthetic tolerance. In those experiencing preoperative anxiety, and in rare instances, due to equipment malfunction or human error. In 1346, during the siege of Caffa, the Mongol army of the Golden Horde under the leadership of Khan Janibek laid siege to the Genoese trading colony of Caffa on the Crimean coast. As the fighting dragged on, the Mongols themselves were struck by an outbreak of plague. The disease tore through their ranks, killing soldiers in droves and weakening the army. In a final, desperate act, the besiegers hurled the plague-infected corpses of their own dead over the city walls, hoping to spread the sickness among the defenders. This tactic is often described as the earliest recorded instance of biological warfare in history. Although the Mongols were soon forced to abandon the siege due to the losses incurred by the plague, their grim strategy appeared to eventually take effect. Accounts from the time claim that the plague spread rapidly inside Caffa, striking down Genoese residents and soldiers alike. Fearing annihilation, many traders and sailors fled the city by ship, some carrying the disease with them to ports across the Mediterranean. From there, the plague is believed by some historians to have reached Italy, France, and beyond, helping ignite the catastrophe later known as the Black Death, which would wipe out between 30 and 50% of Europe's population within just a few years. Yet this story remains the subject of debate. The most detailed account comes from Gabriele de Musi, an Italian notary writing after the fact, who was not an eyewitness. Modern historians question whether catapulted corpses could have effectively transmitted the plague, which primarily spreads through fleas and rodents rather than from dead bodies alone. Many scholars argue that the pandemic's arrival in Europe was more likely driven by existing trade networks and shipping routes that were already carrying infected rats and fleas westward. In February 1992, Pepsi Cola Products Philippines, a local subsidiary of PepsiCo, launched a nationwide sales campaign called Number Fever. Under the promotion, every Pepsi, 7-Up, Mountain Dew, or Mirinda bottle cap carried a 3-digit number from 001 to 999. Each day, one number was announced on television and radio, and consumers who held caps with that number could redeem prizes ranging from 100, 500, or 1,000 pesos, with the jackpot being 1 million pesos, which equated to roughly $40,000. In the Philippines at that time, 1 million pesos was a life-changing sum, about 611 times the average monthly salary. The promotion was an immediate success. Pepsi's monthly sales jumped from $10 million to $14 million, and its market share climbed from 19.4 to 24.9%. The campaign was originally scheduled to run from February to May 8, 1992, with Pepsi planning to award only 18 grand prizes in total. Each night, nearly half the population tuned in to hear the winning 3-digit number. By May, about 51,000 prizes had been redeemed, including 17 grand prizes. With momentum still strong, Pepsi extended the campaign by another 5 weeks. On May 25, 1992, disaster struck. That night's winning number was announced as 349, which was supposed to have only 2 legitimate million peso caps in circulation, but due to a production error, an estimated 600,000 to 800,000 bottle caps bearing the number 349 had been printed earlier without the necessary security codes. Overnight, hundreds of thousands of Filipinos believed they had won a fortune. The following morning, thousands of people descended on Pepsi plants, some carrying multiple winning crowns. Pepsi executives quickly declared that the misprinted caps were invalid and did not qualify for the jackpot. After tense emergency meetings, Pepsi offered a 500 pesos goodwill payment for each misprinted cap, about $18. Roughly 486,000 people accepted, costing the company about 240 million pesos or $8.9 million. But not everyone settled. Many who felt cheated organized into the 349 Alliance, a consumer movement that organized boycotts, protests, and lawsuits against Pepsi. Protests began peacefully but soon escalated. Delivery trucks were stoned, overturned, or set on fire. On February 13, 1993, a homemade bomb aimed at a delivery truck ricocheted and exploded, killing a schoolteacher and a 5-year-old girl. In May, a grenade thrown into the window of a PepsiCo warehouse killed 3 employees. In total, at least 5 people lost their lives during the violence. Responsibility for these attacks was disputed. Some claimed Pepsi staged them to discredit protesters, while others blamed rival soft drink companies for exploiting the unrest. The legal aftermath was vast. More than 22,000 individuals filed claims against Pepsi, generating hundreds of civil suits and thousands of criminal complaints. Ultimately, the Philippine Supreme Court ruled in Pepsi's favor, holding that the misprinted caps were not valid winning crowns. This effectively ended the bulk of the litigation. Some plaintiffs received token moral damages, but the overwhelming majority of claimants received nothing beyond the 500 pesos consolation payment. On the 16th of May 2011, residents of a 15-story public housing block in Woodland, Singapore, noticed that their tap water had turned an unusual yellowish color and appeared excessively foamy. Concerned that the rooftop water tanks had been contaminated, they alerted the authorities. Following an anonymous tip, police inspected the building's 8 rooftop tanks. To their shock, they discovered the partially decomposed body of a 30-year-old Indonesian maid, Ruliawati, inside one of the tanks. The case quickly drew widespread panic, as the discovery meant that residents had been drinking, cooking, and washing with the contaminated water that morning. Some recalled preparing food, including green bean soup, with a tainted supply, though fortunately, no one fell ill. Investigation soon revealed that Ruliawati had been in a troubled relationship with MD Ripan Mustafa, a 27-year-old Bangladeshi maintenance worker employed at the block. Because of his job, he had unrestricted access to the rooftop. Residents reported hearing a heated argument between the two in the early hours of the morning before her disappearance. When police searched the rooftop, they also found bloodstains near the water tank. The maintenance worker was arrested and initially charged with murder. During the coroner's inquest, however, a more complex picture emerged. Evidence showed that during a quarrel on the rooftop, Ruliawati stabbed him in the shoulder and arm. In retaliation, he stabbed her twice in the back. Forensic experts testified that these wounds were not fatal. According to the worker's account, Ruliawati then climbed into the water tank herself. He claimed he tried to prevent her but failed, and she ultimately drowned. In 2013, the coroner ruled that Ruliawati's death was the result of drowning, with the stab wounds deemed non-fatal and not the direct cause of death. Her death was therefore classified as accidental rather than homicide. The murder charge against the maintenance worker was withdrawn. He was given a discharge not amounting to an acquittal, meaning the case could technically be reopened should new evidence arise. In 1984, Shizu Matsumoto founded a small yoga school and publishing house. 3 years later, he rebranded it as a new religious movement called Aum Shinrikyo, which translates to Supreme Truth, and adopted the name Shoko Asahara. Acting as guru and spiritual leader, Asahara blended elements of Buddhism, Hinduism, and Christianity in his newfound religion, emphasizing apocalyptic prophecies of an imminent World War III. According to Asahara, this war would be initiated by the United States and its allies, and would bring about the destruction of Japan, as well as widespread devastation across the rest of the world. In this vision, only members would survive to establish a utopian kingdom, with Asahara as its divine leader. In 1989, Shinrikyo was officially recognized as a religious corporation by the Japanese government, gaining tax privileges and a degree of immunity from oversight from Japanese authorities. The group expanded rapidly, from a few dozen followers to tens of thousands worldwide, with branches in Russia and elsewhere. Its wealth also grew substantially through aggressive fundraising, seizing members' assets, and selling Asahara's so-called sacred items, including his bathwater and blood. As membership swelled, the group became increasingly violent. Lawyers, journalists, and defectors who opposed or attempted to leave were kidnapped, tortured, or murdered. After failing to secure political power in the early 1990s, Asahara turned toward domestic terrorism in an attempt to hasten the coming of Armageddon. The cult developed both biological and chemical weapons programs. Its attempts at weaponizing anthrax and botulinum toxin largely failed, but its chemical weapons division, led by chemist Masami Tsuchiya, succeeded in manufacturing large quantities of sarin, a deadly nerve agent originally developed by Nazi Germany in 1938. In June 1994, members released sarin gas in the city of Matsumoto, targeting judges involved in a land dispute unfavorable to the cult. The gas drifted into a nearby residential area, killing 8 people and injuring over 500. Despite growing suspicions, authorities struggled to gather sufficient evidence. By early 1995, police were preparing a large-scale raid on facilities. Aware of this, Asahara ordered a preemptive strike designed both to disrupt the investigation and to trigger the apocalypse he had long prophesied. On the morning of March 20th, 1995, 5 members boarded trains on 3 central Tokyo subway lines during rush hour. Each carried a plastic bag filled with liquid sarin, wrapped in newspapers. They then punctured the bags with sharpened umbrella tips before fleeing, causing the liquid sarin to be quickly vaporized into the air. The results were catastrophic. Over 5,500 people were injured, many suffering long-term vision problems and neurological damage. 13 people were killed, making it the deadliest terrorist attack in modern Japanese history. Shinrikyo carried out additional failed attempts, including a cyanide gas plot later that year, also on the Tokyo Metro. Eventually, evidence from defectors of the cult along with raids soon exposed the group's crimes. Police arrested over 200 members, including Asahara. In the following trials, 13 senior members including Asahara were sentenced to death. Many others received life or lengthy prison sentences. Though weakened, remnants of the cult still exist today, under the name Aleph, under strict surveillance by Japanese authorities.